Enter into his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise. We see this in Psalm 100, 1-5. Enter into his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise is some of the best advice a Christian could ever receive. You know, praise is not just a form of worship. It's actually spiritual warfare. When you're going through a hard time and you start praising Jesus, it's like heaven opens up and something happens in your soul that you just can't explain. When you're going through a hard time and you start praising Jesus, the enemy will not be able to penetrate into your soul. Satan's fiery darts, the Bible calls them. Those are the thoughts that Satan shoots into your mind. They cannot penetrate the joy of someone who's praising Jesus in the midst of their trouble. And I want to share a little testimony of mine. In April 2017, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. In August of 2017, I started chemotherapy. And this was, reason I started so late is because I went to see a healing minister. I casted the sickness out of me. I tried to eat very healthy to fight it off. I mean, just anything I could think of. And finally, in August of 2017, with my family really wanting me to do this, I acquiesced and I started chemotherapy. The first 2 months, I started noticing I was getting bitter. Not really bitter at God, just bitter at what I was going through. I couldn't understand, like, why would God want this poison inside of my body? Why didn't he heal me? You know, I think a lot of us have that question. And I started getting a little bitter at how I was feeling. And one day, I received a text from someone, a friend of mine actually from Alaska, that asked me for my address. And she sent me a book in the mail, a very small book. It's called Prison to Praise. I read this book, and the whole gist of this book was, if whatever you're going through is not any worse than what Jesus went through on the cross, you need to praise me for it because I will work it together for good. And after reading that, I got up and I stood in front of the mirror and I said, Lord, I praise you for what I'm going through. I praise you for how I feel. I praise you for just going through this chemotherapy because I know you are going to work this together for good. And that's when a miracle happened. Just by me doing that, all of a sudden, all bitterness left my soul and inside came a gratitude I had not felt before. From that day on, I laid back in bed, still sick, still months ahead of chemotherapy, but I viewed everything differently. I was grateful for just everything all my blessings. Even though I had this in me, I was still a new creation. I still was blessed. I didn't have to go to work. I had good health insurance. My husband was taking care of me. I just started viewing things and looking around me for my blessings. I learned so much through going through this particular cancer journey. The love of God, how he took care of me through this. So praise him and praise him more when you're going through hard times, because heaven will open up and help will be on the way. And your enemies, every one of them will be killed. And yes, bitterness is one of your enemies.